Welcome friends, in this video let's discuss about United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. Let's recap here. In 1992 Rio Earth Summit was organized. It was also called as United Nations Conference on Environment Development, and that conference three important international conventions were opened for signing for the member countries. These include UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Second is Convention on Biological Diversity, and third one is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. I have covered in my previous videos about these two conventions and their respective protocols as well. Please watch the same if you have not watched that. And in this video, I'm going to cover UNFCCC. This UNFCCC is an international environmental treaty, and the main objective of this treaty is to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions, thereby reducing the global warming. Let's look at the important objective of the treaty. Objective of this treaty is to stabilize greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. Okay, and this UNFCCC is not a legally binding convention. It is only a voluntary convention, and there is no enforcement mechanism put in place under the convention. Please remember, it is not legally binding convention. But this UNFCCC, this convention provides a framework for the member countries for negotiating specific international treaties called protocols that may set binding limits on the greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, according to Conference of Parties, third Conference of Parties that was held in Kyoto, Kyoto Protocol was agreed by the member countries. This Kyoto Protocol set the binding obligation for the developed countries, that is industrialized countries, to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, thereby reducing the global warming. So under Kyoto Protocol, legally binding obligations were made on the developed countries to reduce their greenhouse gas emission. Okay, not under UNFCCC. In 2010, that is in 16th Conference of Parties, CANCOM agreements were made among the member countries. According to that agreement, the future global warming should be limited to below 2 degrees Celsius related to the pre-industrial level. Okay, and global warming should be limited to only 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. So if the global temperature rises above the 2 degrees Celsius, then it would lead to disastrous events like global warming, melting of glaciers, and various other weather phenomena. So it would be wise to reduce the global warming within the 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. So this is the commitment agreement made under the CANCOM agreement. And this UNFCCC also provide establishment of national greenhouse gas inventories. That means each nation should calculate their their greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere and their efforts to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the atmosphere through various initiatives. So each country should audit and account the greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. So this is called National Greenhouse Gas Inventory. And according to this data, Annex 1 countries under the Kyoto Protocol are legally binding to reduce their global greenhouse emissions. So this is the important thing here. Let's look at the important articles under the UNFCCC. Article 2 of the convention provides that global greenhouse gas concentrations are stabilized in the atmosphere at a level where ecosystem can adapt naturally to climate change. Okay, and food production is not threatened, and economic development can proceed in a sustainable fashion. So the Article 2 says that food production should not be threatened by the rising global greenhouse gas emissions, and economic development should be moving in a sustainable fashion. Okay, so that efforts should be made to that extent. Okay, and second important article is Article 3.1. It states that parties should act to protect the climate system on the basis of common but differentiated responsibility. And this is the core principle of the convention. That means common but differentiated responsibility means every nation has the common responsibility to reduce the global greenhouse gas emission, thereby reducing the global warming. But all the nations do not have the equal responsibility. They have differentiated responsibility because historically only developed countries, that is European Union, United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and these countries are responsible for the current day mess due to global warming. During industrial revolution during 1850s and 1950s, these countries released huge lot of quantity of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. That is the main reason for the present day global warming. So these countries should take the burden of reducing the global warming during this commitment period. So that is called differentiated responsibility. At the same time, the developing countries and least developed countries should be given the carbon space to grow and catch up with the developed countries in the area of development and providing basic necessity to its common people. For example, in least developed countries, even the basic amenities are not provided to them, like clean drinking water, housing, and proper electricity facility, and other things, proper infrastructure, and these are not provided. If certain burden is made on the least developed countries to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions, then these countries remain underdeveloped because of the restrictions. So they should be spare the carbon space to grow in the meantime, and only the developed countries should take the responsibility of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So this is the meaning of common but differentiated responsibility. And Article 4 says that all parties make general commitment to address climate change. Okay, here general commitment is the key. As I mentioned earlier, this UNFCCC is a voluntary agreement, not the legally binding agreement. So general commitment is the key here, Article 4, and every country should take mitigation and adaptation to eventual impact of climate change. So this is the fourth article. Here the countries are divided into annex countries, annex 1 country, annex 2 country, non-annex country under the convention, to provide responsibility for the member countries to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions. Let's look at the annexes. Okay, and annex 1 countries include 43 parties. This include European Union, and these parties are classified as industrialized or developed countries, and other category of countries are also included in this. These are called economies in transition, and these economies in transition include 14 countries. These countries were former centrally planned Soviet economies of Russia and Eastern European countries. Okay, Eastern European countries. So these countries are called Annex 1 countries, and Annex 2 countries includes 24 parties, including European Union countries and the countries, some of the countries of the OECD. And this Annex 2 countries has the responsibility to provide financial and technical support to the developing countries to assist them in reducing the global greenhouse gas emissions in the areas of both climate change mitigation as well as climate change adaptation. So here Annex 2 countries provide money and technology resources to the developing countries to reduce the global to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in these developing countries. So here Annex 1 countries are mandated to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions. So these are legally obligated to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions under Kyoto Protocol. Okay, and least developed countries here includes 49 parties. Okay, and are given special status under the treaty in view of their limited capacity to adapt to the effects of climate change. And non-annexed countries are those countries which are not mentioned in the Annex 1 and Annex 2. These are mostly the developing countries like India, China, Brazil, South Africa, and other countries. So as I mentioned earlier, these are Annex 1 countries. Okay, Annex 1 countries, and Annex 2 countries are mentioned in the green color. So these countries will provide financial assistance and technology to developing countries. Annex 1 countries do not provide the financial assistance, but they have the legally binding obligation to reduce global greenhouse gas emission under the Kyoto Protocol. Okay, and these countries mentioned in the orange color are non-annex countries. So this is the classification of the countries. And this UNFCCC led to other negotiation by the Conference of Parties, various Conference of Parties. For example, in third Conference of Parties, Kyoto Protocol was agreed. Okay, and this also provides for various flexibility mechanism to mitigate the global warming, like joint implementation, emission trading, and next in 13th Conference of Parties, Bali package. Bali Action Plan was agreed by the member countries. Okay, and in 16th Conference of Parties, Copenhagen Accord was agreed by the member countries, and in 17th Conference of Parties, Cancun Agreement was agreed, and in 19th Durban Platform for Enhanced Action was agreed to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions. And in 2014, that is in 20th Conference of Party, Lima Conference was made in in Peru, okay, and various funding mechanisms are also put in place internationally to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions and also to undertake mitigation and adaptation strategies. These funding mechanisms include Special Climate Change Fund, Global Climate Fund, Global Environment Facility, okay, and other initiatives like reducing emission from deforestation and forest degradation, also called as RED and RED Plus, are also taken put in place to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions. So these are all the initiatives by the international community to reduce the global warming through reducing the greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. So this is it about the UNFCCC. In the coming videos, I am going to cover these individual topics related to climate change, that is Kyoto Protocol, Bali Action Plan, Copenhagen Accord, CANCOM agreements, and Durban Platform and Lima Conference. So these are covered in the separate videos. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Thank you.